Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a question to ask. The question is that am I correct in assuming that clause 6.1 means that a death certificate would be issued for the prevailing or underlying illness rather than the actual VAD?
That's an interesting question which is not resolved in this bill. So it is up to the Registrar for Birth, Deaths and Marriages to determine, based on what the doctor who certifies death has indicated is the cause of death. So this bill is silent on that question.
Member for Light.
Can I just clarify? Without trying to specify what the underlying illness is, the death certificate won't say it's a suicide, though. Is that correct?
That's right. What this legislation does say is that it will not be taken to constitute suicide, which of course is important in terms of, for example, life insurance and others. So no, it is not regarded as suicide. It is either that the person has died as a result of the underlying illness, or that the person has died through a process of legal voluntary assisted dying.
Member for Light.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to clarify, in terms of, it says for the purpose of the laws of the state, how does that cover an issue? The member for Port Adelaide is the issue which I have concern about is people's insurance, life insurance and other matters. How does that actually capture people who get insurance which is actually interstate or online?
I have no answer for that. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Sorry, what was the response there, Deputy Leader?
I don't know.
You don't know the answer to that?
No. I can have a chat to the Parliamentary Council and see if there's any more advice for the chamber.
You could.
But it's I mean, my point is this is straying a little beyond the purview of this bill, which is to facilitate a process of voluntary assisted dying, and it is simply a statement of fact to say that that is not suicide. Suicide is in a very different category, which is why earlier I asked that people not use that term. I can seek further advice from Parliamentary Council or indeed between the Houses, as given that we have already amended, we are likely to amend this bill. We are going to have another process in the Legislative Council, so I can seek information there, but I can't create information that I don't have in my head.
So just so I'm clear, Member for Light, your question was in regard to somebody who might be interstate?
No. If you purchase, for example, you live in South Australia, which this law applies to you,
yes,
but you purchase either insurance online or from a company which is actually interstate, to what extent does this have extraterritorial application to those states? And this issue is the reason before, when we had franchise law reform and we had to have special provisions to cover that. So I'm just making sure that the law does what it intends to do. And secondly, what privacy provisions are in the bill to ensure that insurance companies don't go behind any death certificate, etc. What privacy provisions are available?
Yeah. So, Deputy Leader, did you want to?
This clause doesn't refer to privacy provisions. This law is simply stating that voluntary assisted dying is not suicide.
I think what I might suggest is that we attempt to seek an answer, Member for Light, between the Houses to that question.
Mr. Speaker, I understand what the intention of the law is, and I support the clause. I just make sure the clause actually does what it says it does in a practical sense and doesn't impact on people later when they find out it actually doesn't do what it says to do in a whole range of commercial transactions.
Yes, and look, I don't know that we'll have the answer to that here today.
Questions on notice and be answered between
question
the Houses.
Or seek the answers between the Houses.